What if I told you that some of the most powerful names in politics, business, and entertainment may be connected to a scandal so dark that the full truth still hasn't come out? The Epstein Files refer to documents, court records, flight logs, testimonies, and investigation materials linked to Jeffrey Epstein, a financier who was accused of running a vast sex trafficking network involving underage girls. After his arrest in 2019, the case exploded into a global controversy, not only because of the horrific allegations, but because of the powerful individuals reportedly associated with him. These files include unsealed court documents, victim statements, contact lists, and private jet flight logs, often referred to as the Alalita Express record. Names such as Prince Andrew and Bill Clinton have appeared in various documents and reports, although being named does not automatically imply criminal wrongdoing. After Epstein's death in a New York jail, officially ruled a suicide, questions intensified. Was he silenced? Who else he silenced? Who else was involved? Why did the system fail for so many years? But to understand the depth of this scandal, we have to go back years before his final arrest. Epstein was not an unknown figure. He moved in elite circles, hosted lavish parties, owned multiple luxury properties, and maintained close relationships with billionaires, academics, royalty, and political leaders. How does a man with no clear public business empire build such influence? Who opened doors for him? Who protected him? One of the most controversial aspects of the Epstein files is not just the allegations, but the pattern of protection. In 2008, he secured a controversial plea deal in Florida that allowed him to avoid federal charges and serve a relatively short sentence. Critics argue that this deal shielded not only him but potentially others. That agreement has since been widely scrutinized, raising serious concerns about how justice operates when money and power intersect. The role of Ghislaine Maxwell also became central to the case. She was accused of helping recruit and groom underage girls for Epstein. Her trial brought further details into public view, including testimonies from victims who described manipulation, abuse, and systematic exploitation. The courtroom proceedings revealed how influence, wealth, and access were allegedly used to silence victims and normalize exploitation within elite environments. Another major component of the files includes properties located in places like Manhattan and the private island in the United States Virgin Islands. These locations were not random vacation homes. According to allegations and testimonies, they were central hubs where abuse allegedly occurred. The island in particular became symbolic of secrecy, a place where powerful guests visited away from public scrutiny. Investigative agencies such as the Federal Bureau of Investigation seized thousands of documents, hard drives, CD, and photographs during raids. The scale of evidence shocked the public. Safes filled with sensitive material, hidden cameras allegedly installed in rooms, contact books listing hundreds of names. The question that echoed globally was simple. What exactly is inside those files that the public still hasn't seen? As court documents were gradually unsealed, fragments of information surfaced. Names of businessmen, politicians, professors, and global figures appeared in varying contexts, some as acquaintances, some as alleged participants, others merely mentioned in testimonies. Social media erupted. Conspiracy theories spread. News outlets debated every release. Yet at the center of it all remained a painful truth. The voices of the victims. Many survivors described being recruited at a young age, often through manipulation rather than force. Promises of money, career opportunities, or mentorship allegedly turned into cycles of abuse. Several testified that they were trafficked to powerful individuals. For years, they claimed they were ignored or dismissed. Only after Epstein's final arrest did widespread public support begin to shift in their favor. The Epstein files also exposed a deeper issue: how elite networks operate. Private jets, exclusive parties, closed-door meetings. When wealth creates insulation, accountability becomes complicated. This case forced a global audience to confront uncomfortable questions. Are there different rules for the powerful? Does status influence justice? How many cases remain hidden because victims fear speaking out against influential figures? Media coverage played a significant role. Some journalists had reportedly attempted to break the story years earlier but faced obstacles. There were claims that certain reports were suppressed or delayed. When the scandal finally erupted in full force, it wasn't just a criminal case. It was a reckoning with media, politics, and institutional transparency. Another layer of complexity involves the difference between being named in a document and being accused of wrongdoing. Legal experts repeatedly emphasize that appearing in flight logs or contact books does not equate to guilt. However, in the court of public opinion, nuance often disappears. Reputations were damaged overnight. Social media trials began long before courtrooms delivered verdicts. Then came the surveillance footage issue. On the night of Epstein's death, cameras reportedly malfunctioned. Guards failed to check on him. Protocols were allegedly not followed. For many, these inconsistencies fueled suspicion. Official reports concluded suicide, yet public skepticism remained strong. The combination of powerful connections and irregular jail procedures created a narrative that many found difficult to accept at face value. Financial records within the files also raised eyebrows. Donations to institutions, funding for academic programs, relationships with prestigious universities. How did philanthropic efforts intersect with alleged criminal behavior? Were institutions aware? Did they ask questions? Or did prestige and funding silence doubt? As more documents were released through civil lawsuits, particularly defamation cases connected to Maxwell, new details continued to emerge. Some documents were heavily redacted. Others revealed previously sealed testimonies. Each release triggered renewed media attention. Each name mentioned sparked another wave of speculation. Beyond the individual names, the Epstein Files represent a structural story. How power clusters form and protect themselves. The case crossed international boundaries, touching the United States, the United Kingdom, and beyond. It involved finance, politics, academia, and entertainment. It blurred lines between social networking and criminal enterprise. The victims' legal battles also exposed systemic challenges, statutes of limitations, non-disclosure agreements, out-of-court settlements. These mechanisms, while legal, often limited public transparency. Some survivors received financial settlements but insisted that accountability meant more than compensation. Another dimension is the digital evidence. Investigators reportedly recovered thousands of files from electronic devices. Yet the public has seen only a fraction. What remains sealed? What remains under investigation? Legal processes move slowly, especially when they intersect with privacy laws and ongoing cases. Critics argue that the Epstein Files could reveal broader networks. Supporters of due process caution against turning speculation into accusation. The tension between transparency and fairness remains unresolved. Governments claim investigations are ongoing. Journalists continue filing freedom of information requests. Activists demand full disclosure. Public trust in institutions was deeply affected. For some, the case symbolized elite impunity. For others, it demonstrated that even the powerful can face consequences. Maxwell's conviction was seen by many as a partial step toward justice, yet questions about other alleged participants persist. Financial settlements reached with victims by Epstein's estate added another chapter. After his death, claims were filed against his assets. Funds were distributed, but moral accountability cannot be measured solely in monetary terms. Survivors continue advocating for stronger anti-trafficking laws and institutional reforms. The Epstein Files also triggered cultural reflection. Conversations about grooming, coercion, and exploitation entered mainstream discourse. Movements against sexual abuse gained momentum. Whistleblowers felt emboldened. Yet at the same time, misinformation flourished, mixing verified facts with unproven theories. The global fascination with this case stems from its collision of secrecy and power. It is rare for allegations to reach so high into elite circles. It is even rarer for documents to expose how interconnected those circles may be. Each unsealed page carries weight, not just legally, but symbolically. And still, many documents remain sealed. Court processes continue. Appeals are filed. Investigations extend quietly behind closed doors. The public sees headlines, but the complete archive remains largely inaccessible. Lawyers argue. Activists protest. Survivors speak. Officials promise transparency. The Epstein Files are not just a collection of papers. They are a lens through which society examines justice, privilege, and silence. They force uncomfortable reflection on how systems respond when accused individuals possess wealth and influence beyond ordinary reach. They challenge institutions to prove that accountability applies universally. As debates continue over what should be released and what should remain confidential, the tension between transparency and legal protection intensifies. Every new disclosure reignites the same question: how deep does this network go, and what truths remain buried in sealed records, waiting for the moment when they can no longer be contained within locked cabinets and classified archives while the world watches, waiting for the next document to surface and the next name to appear in black ink against white paper, raising more questions than answers and pushing the story further into the shadows where power and secrecy continue to intersect without full exposure. The Epstein Files ultimately represent than a scandal attached to Jeffrey Epstein. They represent a stress test for institutions that claim to uphold justice. This case exposed how wealth, access, and influence can blur lines that are supposed to be firm and unbreakable. It forced courts, governments, media organizations, and elite circles into uncomfortable scrutiny. Every unsealed document reminded the public that power does not operate in isolation. It operates through networks. At the center of this story are the survivors. Their testimonies shifted the narrative from rumor and speculation to documented legal proceedings. Through civil lawsuits, criminal trials, and public statements, they transformed what was once dismissed into a global reckoning. The conviction of Ghislaine Maxwell demonstrated that accountability is possible, yet it also highlighted how many questions remain unresolved. The files revealed systemic weaknesses: controversial plea agreements, institutional silence, delayed investigations, and reputational shields that may have protected powerful figures. At the same time, legal principles remind us that being named in documents does not automatically equal guilt. The tension between transparency and due process continues to define public debate. What remains most significant is the broader impact. Laws concerning trafficking, victim protection, and institutional responsibility have come under renewed examination. Media investigations have intensified.